you could just see this crazed look in his eyes, and it would just be so scary, you know. And I would try to calm him down because I didn't know where, you know, how far he would go.
And most of the time it was with his fist. He would take his fist and beat my mom. He'd beat me with a belt, with his fist, with his hands. He'd slap me. He'd slap my mom. If he had something in his hands, he would use that and beat us. It just depended on what he had at the time.
I don't remember ever not being abused by my dad. I don't have any memories when there wasn't sexual abuse involved or physical abuse.
And maybe we'll get you, you know, another pretty dress. Get you a pretty little dress. Because you look really pretty in these clothes.
Sit here. Don't bother me anymore. Sit here and watch television.
I like to take pictures and stuff, and you know, I used to have like a lot of glass frames and china vases and stuff, and anything that was important to me, he would tear up, you know, but he would later, you know, after the situation was over, he would replace it with something.
Look around you, the people you see, meet, and work with. Who among us is living a life of fear? Who among us is holding secrets deep inside?
She was in danger of her life. I can remember once he beat her with a bag with beer cans in it, in her face, busted her eye, broke her ribs, broke an arm off a chair one time, a kitchen chair, and beat her with that. Beat her with his fist. He put her in the hospital. I would get in trouble at school, or I'd do something at home. I'd break something, or I wouldn't mow the grass when I was told to. And I thought as a teenager that if they were mad at me, at least they were together and they weren't mad at each other.
When will any one of us make the decision to end abuse? We have the power to prevent a rape, a spousal beating, the destruction of a child's life, or the indignity suffered by the frail and elderly. It is more complex than just statistics and police reports. Family violence in Virginia is real, and it's not as far from our own lives and our communities as we may think.
Has he done his homework?
I don't know. He just came back.
What do you mean you don't know?
He just came back from...
Well, where were you when you got home from school?
I went to the interview, honey.
What is the matter with you?
The need to control others creates a storm of violence around innocent victims.
We have one small little contract. All you have to do is raise your son and take care of me. And you can't even do that?
Dad, please.
What are you doing?
Domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse can occur anywhere. Every year in Virginia, some 10,000 children become victims of abuse or neglect. 10,000.
I think children who grow up in violent homes have a very difficult time understanding what a home can be like without it. Conversely, for those of us who did not grow up in violent homes, we have very little understanding of the sheer terror and lack of love and security and safety that people living in violent homes experience.
Whenever I did confront my mom and dad, she blurted out in an emotional rage, "What's the big deal? I was raped by my dad when I was 13.
From the earliest moments of her memory until she eloped at age 19, Polly Newman was forced to be her father's victim.
It would start out with comments, inappropriate, maybe sexual jokes. It would be things like tickling and touch you when you would be tickled. It would be checking on you at night when you go to bed and pulling up the covers and fondle you instead of doing what a good dad would do, kind of thing. And it did eventually go into intercourse.
Dwayne Tharp's parents married when his mother was just 13. His father then beat her and his two sons for 20 years. The first beating still rings clearly in Dwayne's mind.
I was about 5 years old, and we lived in a rental home in Hopewell. And I can remember him coming in drinking and beating us that evening. It went so far as I can remember taking a butter knife and trying to stab him with a butter knife. He beat us pretty bad that night. We left, and on our way out the door, he took a black skillet frying pan and threw it at us through the window of the door.
Listen to me. I don't want you to be friends with Steve. I don't want you to be friends with any guy in the school, all right?
Why not?
Because you're with me.
I know that, but that doesn't mean I can't have...
You're with me.
You've got a job. It's here.
I know.
It's taking care of this house, your child, and me. That's why I go to work. That's why I put up with all that crap I put up with all day long. Look at me! Look at...
Abuse in relationships is most often the result of the abuser's desire for power and control.
Well, he would have me wear baggy clothes so that no one can see that I had a shape. The clothes that I had, he took them into the living room and shredded them and ripped them so that I would have to wear hand-me-down clothes that his mother would wear.
I'm sorry that I grabbed your hair like that. I'm sorry I grabbed your hair.
Some abusers may manipulate their victims with an apology that seems heartfelt.
Don't be mad at me, okay? I go nuts, okay?
You hurt me.
I am
You really
crazy
hurt
about...
me.
Listen, I'm crazy about you, babe.
It's often called the honeymoon period, where there's an apology, and I promise I'll never do it again, and I didn't mean to do that. Again, people enter these relationships based on love and attraction, and they want to believe that it'll be okay, and so yes, most often they accept the apology.
Of the victim, we ask, why not just leave? But leaving is complex. Oftentimes, financial dependency leaves poverty as the only option for the victim and for the children, but that's not the worst of it.
If you look at the most violent and lethal of situations, you find that they often occur at the point the individual leaves the relationship. That the fear, the threats have gone on for a period of time, but at the point of separation and during that period of separation is when they are most danger of serious harm.
After being verbally abused so much and being told that you know, were not a good person, that everything you did was wrong and you were ugly and you were stupid, that after a while you begin to feel that maybe they're telling you the truth.
I've had an awful day. I come home. I was looking forward to coming home. And
There's
now...
no shortage of excuses for abuse. But in reality, abusers use violence to exert control. That violence creates a pain that can leave an emotional scar on survivors for the rest of their lives. How close is this pain to our own community? Just check your watch. Abuse of an elderly Virginian is reported every single hour. A victim gets help from a domestic violence program every 11 minutes. A child is abused or neglected every 51 minutes. Every 2 hours, a victim of sexual assault seeks help from a Virginia crisis center.
If you had not taught this child respect...
The effects of exposure to family violence on children can be devastating and long-lasting. Children learn what they live.
My daughter just went through a real terrible domestic violence incident herself. And it's like, you know, I see the cycle continuing, and it's like she was conditioned, you know. She was conditioned to accept a lot of things. Her bottom line in her relationship was that her abuser didn't hit her. You know, he pulled a gun on her. He vandalized her apartment, did $3,000 to $5,000 worth of damage. He ran off the road with a car. But her bottom line in her head was that he didn't hit me. And I, you know, I blame myself for that because my children didn't learn these things off of TV. They didn't learn it, you know, out there in the street. They learned it at home.
It gets me upset. I don't want to share you with anybody.
No, you aren't. I mean, you and I are together.
Well, I want to be sure of that.
In order to maintain complete control, an abuser will often isolate his family by turning the home into a virtual prison.
I've never been allowed to spend the night at a friend's house. I've never been to a football game. And in high school, I never went to a school dance. I couldn't have friends come over and spend the night. This was my dad's this was his family and he would do what he wanted to and nobody better say anything about it. But to do those normal kinds of activities would mean risking our secret getting out.
The prison called home may extend well into adulthood and marriage, and many times abusers take great care to conceal their crimes.
What he would do is that he would hit me with a belt, with a plunger stick, with his fist, and with his hand as well, but he would hide it. He would hit me where I had to wear clothes so that people would not see.
I would leave my body. It was as if I was above looking down at what was happening. I know now that's called dissociation, but I did that very well, in fact, and I could really block things out. I did pretending a whole lot. I was a very good pretender. That was the only way I could face my father during the day, was to pretend that what was happening at night wasn't happening.
Dad, sit down, stop hovering. This is real. Just be quiet, okay? Just sit right there.
You want to hold my hand? Oh, please? Look, I'll hold the dolly's hand.
Pedophiles are drawn to children, and so what they do is they seduce the children. They are nice to the children. They're kind. They are very caring, and that's what oftentimes is problematic for some of these children.
What is it that you want? I can't read your mind. What is it that you want?
More than 1,300 Virginia children are the victims of sexual assault and abuse each year. Still others suffer physical and emotional abuse and neglect. Some abusive parents can learn to stop their violent behavior and become loving and responsible parents.
What are you doing? Get back here. Dad, I've asked you to sit down. You cannot change your clothes and go to bed in the middle of the day. Sit here.
A relationship can deteriorate very quickly if you're constantly having to provide care, you don't have any backup, you don't have any outlet for your frustration. And oftentimes, those are the people that become, I think, most at risk of physical and verbal abuse.
It doesn't always make the headlines, but the frequency and intensity of elder abuse in Virginia is staggering. It is estimated that each year in Virginia, social service agencies investigate nearly 10,000 cases of elder abuse, and elder abuse is on the rise nationally. It comes in the form of financial swindling, harsh treatment, and neglect. And worst of all, many of these senior citizens, the people who should be revered for their lifelong experiences, have nowhere to turn for help or redemption.
It becomes very difficult to detect and also to investigate, because oftentimes your victim can't recount a tale, won't know. If it involves any sort of sexual abuse, they may be very embarrassed to even say anything. And so the cycle just kind of continues, so it becomes very difficult to identify it, and even more difficult sometimes to investigate it and prosecute if necessary. We had one gentleman that had indicated that he was afraid to speak out simply because bad care was better than no care. And he was afraid that if he said anything, that they would ask him to leave the nursing home, and he had no other options available to him.
Can I help you?
No, honey, no. It's just been a really bad day, and
Family members who care for elderly relatives should look for a group or some kind of support to relieve the stress that may result from acting as a caregiver. Financial and time constraints, marital problems, and job pressures are among the factors that can contribute to stress.
Very small infants, especially sick infants, try the souls of the best of us. And some types of abuse that you see of very young children are the results of just that loss of patience, that inability to find another way to deal with the frustration.
How can we stop the abuse? There is one life-saving answer. Get involved.
We also had a 4-year-old die in a car accident when she was with her mother, who was driving so intoxicated that the car ran out of. She died as a result of burns, received over 48% of her body, and that was done by her mother's boyfriend. Those are our 17 children who died here in this region.
Every single Virginian has the power to end the abuse of at least one person in their lives. And when you end abuse in one life, you may very well end it for generations. Sometimes all it takes is a quiet, private offer to help.
A friend says, I noticed that you've got a black eye. A lot of people get into violent relationships and they really don't know how to get out. Are you in one? Can I help you? I'm your friend. You can call me. If you need a place to go, you can come.
Catherine now counsels abuse victims. Healing others has also helped to heal herself. And now she surrounds her life with the fragile glass and porcelain she once feared would be destroyed each day. Her daughter, too, has put an end to her boyfriend's abuse.
Don't have to worry about walking in the door to, furniture overturned, glass everywhere. It's just, I'm basically trying to rebuild what I had years ago.
And do you have hope for yourself now?
Oh, definitely, because I love myself now.
It is okay to get involved. I really think that. You have to do it carefully, because you don't want to take the abuser and have him then attack you. But the thing I think you can do the most for that person is to listen to them, be there for them when they need a friend, help them to realize that they don't have to be like that. They can change.
Dwayne Tharp is determined to ensure that the ghost of his father's beatings will not become the terror of his own children's lives.
I have a real bad temper like my father. And instead of acting on the anger, I try to take what's happened to me or the situation and do something with that. Take what I've learned from that situation, whether it be good or bad, and learn from that. My goal in life is to give my kids everything that I never got, to make sure that when they leave home that I'm voted the best dad in the world, to always be their friend, to be there with them, to make sure that when they have the hard times that they can count on Dad.
Polly Newman found the best way to tear herself away from the horrors of generations of family abuse.
The first thing, I guess, was to break the silence and tell the secret. You can't stop the abuse if you're still living in secrecy. And we'd been married 10 years before I told him what had happened. And the only reason I told him is we were headed for divorce. We were separated. And I thought he deserved to know why I was the person I was at that time.
25 years after Polly eloped with her husband, they renewed their vows in a formal ceremony. Her two proud sons, free of abuse in their lives, walked her down the aisle. Kim Hedgepath is also in a long and happy marriage now, and she's determined her daughter will not suffer the embarrassment and pain she did. Kim taught her daughter how to identify the warning signs of a dangerous relationship.
Somebody who becomes very possessive, very jealous, who follows you, who questions every move that you make, who questions what you're wearing, why are you wearing that? I think those are some of the red flags, and also somebody who has a very short temper.
My own personal belief is that we can't rely on statutes and the courts for the solutions. I think that the solutions are in our communities and in our homes and in ourselves. And until each and every one of us is willing to, in the way we look, the way we act, the way we respond to our friends, neighbors, and coworkers that says violence is unacceptable. It is not something that's acceptable in our society and in our communities, that our laws are going to be only just so effective.
We each have the power and the responsibility to end family violence and sexual assault in Virginia. What will you do?